Hello everybody, can you all hear me? Everybody at the back? Lovely. I've got to say it's always really nice to come back to the mothership of the north. It's lovely. I'm from the north, as you'll tell by my accent shortly, but I live and work in London where the tea is awful. You know, you get that film of shit at the top, it's just not nice. I'm here to talk about UX and marketing. So I would class myself as a marketeer, and if you've seen quite a few of my talks before, I actually talk a lot more about analytics and reporting. It's kind of like my little fling thing. But user experience is definitely something that I've started to get more involved in over the last decade. And I think it's something that I've had these skill sets as a marketeer in certain projects. I just didn't realize that I was doing the UX side of things. I'll leave my slides with branded 3, edit. Sorry, I've got a terrible memory. And I'll post the slides afterwards, so don't worry too much about writing things out. So, user experience and marketing. We're going to have a little bit of a fun with the love match and the fanciness between these two disciplines. If you are a UXer, anybody a UXer in the room? A few of them, you'll know who a UXer is because they're really kind and they're really sensitive. And when they ask you a question, they're going to say why 5 times every single time. And they really want to get to know you and get to know what's going on inside of your mind. And then you've got a marketeer. A little bit loud, always needs money, is probably recording your conversations, listening to your conversations, hashtagging your conversations. We're slightly needy as well, so please do follow me on Twitter on that note. We have lots of information. But actually, these two randomly seeming people have a lot of love that they can have together. So I'm going to walk you through 5 love matches. This is where I get to pretend that I'm like Cilla Black. And behind door number 1, we have personas and customer empathy maps. Now, personas for me are something that we all as marketeers have got a persona shoved up our sleeve, haven't we? Who's worked with personas over the years? Yeah, we all have, haven't I? They're a bit useless, aren't they? Like, if we're honest. One thing that I found with personas is they're a little bit flat, they're a little bit one-dimensional, and they don't really help me with my marketing, if I'm being totally honest. And I've been the marketeer 10 years ago that printed them up on A3 boards in the room in the office, and then when we said to our boss, here's our creative, aren't we fabulous? And it's not our thinking, it's not us in our little bubble, we've done it for the persona, we've done it for the customer. Truth is, we didn't. We did what we wanted to do and backed it up with our persona to make it happen. But with a persona, you've got, this is John, he's 42, he's got a dog, he likes to read the Telegraph on a Sunday. How am I supposed to write creative content and find marketing that's going to really connect with them when it's such a flat surface to begin with? So then I started getting into, getting into empathy maps. So empathy maps is a user experience tool, and the idea is that you're trying to get in a little bit deeper into the mindset of your ideal customer. There's quite a few sections to it, but a kind of quick summary. The think and feel, this is all that washing machine stuff that you have in your head, all your fears and your thoughts and your dreams, all the stuff that you're going to be talking about, but it's all trapped inside of your head. You've then got the see stage, so this is your environment, your commute to work, what does it look like, who am I seeing, who am I talking to? When it comes to the hearing stage, who's influencing me, where's my advice? Like, who do I go to, who am I following on Instagram, and with one tweet, I will dump your brand within a heartbeat. And then we've got the say and do, and these are my actions, my final actions, and do my thoughts and feelings live up to what I actually say I'm going to do? And one of the things with a customer empathy map is we really need to start thinking about the language that your customers are using. I had a guy that I was chatting to, I won't name the company because I signed a non-disclosure agreement, but they were working for a medical company. And they basically picked the wrong word, a very technical medical word with American spelling. And when they really got into what their personas were doing, and we added this customer empathy map, turns out that they were optimizing their website for the totally wrong language. And I've been guilty of this. I've used acronyms and jargon thinking that my customers are using it, and they're absolutely not. So the first love match is to take your personas and go another level. Start digging into them, like really get to know them. Ask them why 5 times before you find out what you want them to do. Second love match is going to kind of move in a little bit. Oh, I went a bit too fast then. You missed my artwork. I'm gutted. Never mind. You've got a typical customer journey. So most of us know this. We've got the unaware stage. I didn't know. that I wanted some sparkly trainers until I saw somebody on the tube with said sparkly trainers. You then got pain and problem aware. So this is where you've got a problem and an issue and you're trying to find a solution. So it could be, what is user experience? Is your problem? You don't know what it is, you're going to go away and Google it. You then move on to your solution stage of awareness. So depending on your problem, what are the solutions available? I can watch a YouTube video, get a book, go on a course. Out of that bundle of solutions, there will be brands and products and services that will match them. So I move on to product aware. So I might decide I'm going to get a book. So I'm going to buy Steve Krug's book. I am now most aware, I know what I'm doing, and I'm bobbing the information into Google to find it. Now, what I find interesting is when you look at your customer journey, and then you start thinking about how keywords actually work, the things that we're actually typing into the search engines. At the beginning of the stages of awareness, they're typically non-brand focused, aren't they? They're questions. What is user experience? Like, you don't know what you don't know yet. And then as you move through, there are different phases that you want to be optimizing for, which leads me to a model called the consumer cross-stitch. So I've used this for the last few years, and I've got an explainer on our website that's free to download, ungated, go get it. And it didn't have the sexiest of names. I called it the customer empathy map with keyword modifiers, labeled with, like, my co-founder was like, Jill, that is not exciting. We'll call it the consumer cross-stitch. Because what I found out early on in my career is if you map the stages of awareness and then have a look at the customer empathy map and then the keyword modifiers, they all fit in really, really nicely. So it means that you're building your website and your information architecture and your content in a way that fits every single stage of the journey, but you're really doing it for the cause of the customer. So I'll walk you through an example. Stage of awareness, pain and problem aware. I need a hotel, I'm going to Tokyo. I'm not really, I want to go to Tokyo, but let's pretend I want to go to Tokyo. I might start typing in things like, which hotel is in Lost in Translation? Do you really remember that film? You're like, what's it called? I don't know what I want yet, but I know it looks cool. When you're thinking about the customer empathy bit, this is the thinking and feeling. So all of these are kind of questions, and I'm going to be typing them into Google, and the search results as a result of that are probably going to be featured snippets, probably going to be questions, and obviously you want to optimize your URLs to make that. So when we move on to the next stage of awareness, I'm like, oh, I could either get an Airbnb, I can get a hotel, like I'm playing around with the different things that I could be looking for. And because it's the C stage, this is because I am focusing on looking at artwork. And remember at this stage as well, it's how your competition are also being presented to your customer. You know, like when you see like sparkly trainers, you'll now see sparkly trainers because I've just told you about them. You're going to buy a red car, all you see are red cars. You start thinking about going on holiday, you'll start listening to more people and you'll notice other brands as a result of it. So where are you in that positioning side of things? And then search results, in this case, it's probably going to be local packs, it's probably going to be a lot of reviews. When we move on to our product stage, I am now starting to think about actual branded keywords. So I'm going to be putting in the Hyatt. I'm going to be putting in the Imperial Hotel. I am seeing what people are saying about you. I'm listening to influencers. I'm reading travel blogs. I'm really getting into it. I'm buying a guide. And again, what are the search results? What's the content format that you want to have to make sure that you are found? And then when I'm most aware, when I'm ready to hand over my cash, this is me saying, hello, I'm going to go to Tokyo and I'm going to book on this day and this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to tell all my friends, I'm going to post it on Instagram and you're all going to hate me. But that's essentially marrying that whole customer empathy and the customer journey to make your information architecture and your content just a little bit nicer. So third love match, this is now talking about user flows and campaign plumbing is how I'm phrasing this. Has anybody done any website projects over their careers? Yeah, oh, they suck the life out of you, don't they? You're like, it will be over soon, 5 months over deadline. User flows, for my own personal experience, my first ever job back in 2002, I am that old, we were doing websites and I was building user flows, we were doing use cases, so without me realising I was doing quite a few UX things, we just labelled them under website projects. Now, when it comes to user flows, I want you to start thinking about them not just for a new website or an app that you're building, but for all of your marketing and how that flow is going to work for the customer. So they're essentially a group. Has anybody ever seen these kind of tools? Like, they're nice to look at. They're essentially made up of lots of different symbols. You've got a start point, you've got a decision symbol. It looks really, really easy, but a task for you to get used to this, sit down with your team and say, I'm going to order a pizza, and try and map this out, and it will take ages. So one to scare you, here's one I made earlier for a company, and this was for a triggered email system. Some of you are like, my eyes, no. This looks scary, and to make you, for realism here, this was a 6-hour session with Post-it notes in somebody's room, and then 4 hours to build this out. But one thing that we wanted to make sure with this particular project is we were sick and tired of our customers complaining, and I'm sure some of you have done this. I'll click on an email link and I'll go to a page that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, the audacity of it. Or I'm on your customer database and you're going to make me download a PDF, but you already have my details and I don't understand why this is happening. So what we did here is we mapped out for this client for a set of free resources, and then for people that were going to go through and actually ask to get the email address to get it triggered, what would happen? I'm on the page, do I click on the link, yes or no? If I do click on the link, what do I get? And then do I download the PDF, yes or no? So we just mapped out to make sure that we were compliant, because there are 2 databases that were involved in this. We had MailChimp up here that was for marketing, and then we had Salesforce, and we wanted to make sure if anybody unsubscribed from one set of marketing, we had to make sure it happened at this end as well. Anything that was in blue were landing pages that we didn't have yet, so we were able to show this to the board and say, you want this triggered email sequence, then we're going to need a PO for this many pages, and then we'd have an idea of what that page is going to look like, what the URL would be, what's the content. And because we didn't want to miss an opportunity, we started to tag the website with event tracking in Google Analytics. So when people did something but we didn't quite finish what we wanted them to do, we built a retargeting list for them with a message specifically to what they were doing. So this was maximizing every opportunity of that customer journey, but it also meant that nobody got freaked out. Nobody was in an infinite loop. There's a couple of companies that I'm on this weird recycled triggered sequence, and I'm like, I'm a customer now. Why have you put me back into this cycle? It's annoying, and it'll piss off your customers and they won't like it. So start thinking about your Facebook campaigns, your paid search campaigns, your email campaigns, and your website, and start mapping this out. You don't need anything more than a piece of paper and some Post-it notes. And you'll start to see mistakes, and you need to go and fix them, but you'll also find opportunities for you to make more money. And that's our job at the end of the day, isn't it? Make more cash, grow things, not colouring in as we have here. Next love match is our UX Design 101 and copywriting. So I'm not the best copywriter in the world. In fact, I'm pretty crap, actually. And I'm dyslexic, so I never see any spelling mistakes, and I can't read big fonts. But we all know how a typical web page should be built. This is how we've all learnt to read, isn't it? Oh, that's the most important thing, look there. Then when you've looked there, look here, and this is to support this. And then I'd go into some businesses, and a content writer didn't follow the pretty page or the header 1 tag or header 2 tag because they didn't know anything about SEO. And they'd start bolding things and putting things in fancy fonts, making it really difficult for somebody to read. So you've got to start thinking about how you lay out your content. Start thinking about fonts. Something like fonts can make a massive difference. I'm learning this at the moment with my son. He's 7 years old, he's autistic, and he's got dyslexia. So there are certain fonts that he really struggles to read. And apparently he's going to be about 25% of the working population that is on the spectrum. Are you going to just dump off 25% of your customers by having a fancy font that looks great but people can't read? And here's the kick. If you've got customers that haven't got any issues, they'll still read it faster and understand the information faster and get to where you want them to be faster. So let's start doing it. The next thing to remember with our copywriting is that if you struggle to understand what user-centric copy actually is, we leave a digital footprint with everything that we do. It's all anonymized, and I know there's lots of crap with Cambridge Analytica and things like that, but typically speaking, there's a lot of information that is out there. So when I'm writing content, when I'm thinking about my websites, when I'm thinking about doing anything fancy, I do review mining. Has anybody done review mining before? Few people nodding. Start doing this. There is free information for everything. So I start by putting my product's name into things like Amazon. So we did this for a charity that was renting out wheelchairs. So let's go to Amazon then and go through the 343 customer reviews where people have got common themes of pain points and issues and things that they really wish was in that product that you could build in your product and just beat your competition. I would then look at book reviews. I will go onto Quora. I will go onto blog posts, and I will start to pick out different themes. And there's information now with things like, I think there was a tool called AirStory. I'm sure there were other Clipper tools as well where you can just scrape the web literally and copy and paste these out. And then you've got things like Answer the Public. So even if you're struggling to worry what you're going to be doing, you jump in wheelchair and you can export this. That's all your pain-aware questions. That's your entire blog strategy. Then map it into Google Trends of when you can do it. Bing, bang, you're done. Like, it makes it a lot easier, and especially when you're not a natural copywriter like myself, having a blank piece of paper is horrible. Starting to write with more user-centric copy is winning. So the next thing with this is to think about less about the FAB model. If anybody's like a classic marketer, features, advantages, benefits, everybody remember that? Yeah, customers don't really like to read features, advantages, benefits, but PASS, problem, agitate, solution, works really well, especially if you've done the review mining and you're thinking about your customer. So I'm going to give you a story about my friend Ben. This is a true story, but because this has been recorded, I won't give away all their details because they won't like me anymore. But he had proper sweat problems. Like, he excessively sweated. And he's like, I'm getting married, Jill. She wants me to wear grey. I'm like, oh, grey. You can't wear grey when you sweat. No, not a good idea. And he's like, oh, I found a solution, though. I'm going to get some Botox. I'm like, Botox? He's like, yeah, you can put Botox in your pits and it'll stop you sweating. I was like, who knew? Actually, how did you find out that this happens? He went, oh, I went onto Google and he started typing in how to stop excessive sweating, why am I sweating so much, and found this beautifully crafted piece of content from a small business with a fantastic URL structure that started with, do you have a problem with excessive sweating? ? Ben's nodding his head. Yes, I do. Agitate the problem. All that review mining. We get you, can't high-five a friend. Scared to hug somebody unless you leave a mark, have to carry a couple of extra shirts with you, can never wear grey, we feel you. And then they move straight into the solution, going, well, actually, what you might have found is that this is something that could work for you. And people are literally nodding along, like those little nodding dog toys that you can get, and saying yes. So think about how you can structure your content, and think about using this as a framework when you're writing your copy. It's much, much better. We all good for time still? 6 minutes, oh good. I'm on my last love match now as well, so that's good. Okay, so last love match now that I can have slightly more time to rant on about is around reporting. Do people here like build lots of reports? Lots of dashboards? Yeah? You can lose a lot of time doing your dashboards, can't you? I've spent months, like years probably over my career, building dashboards, and worst case scenario, nobody ever reads them. My co-founder went to a meeting once with an agency, and in London, it gets a bit hot in London, and like there's no air conditioning sometimes. And he was in a building, and somebody went, oh, just prop the window open with this book. And he went, what's that? He went, our clients' analytics reports. We just print it off every month and send it to them because it's something tangible that they can look at, but nobody ever reads. I'm like, what a pain. Like, what's the point of doing that? So I don't like wasting time. I don't like waste. I don't like spending hours and hours and hours trying to write and build reports and dashboards that take a lot of time to present them, and then somebody going, oh, could you like move that thing over there and like add that? I'm like, fuck off. That is like 4 hours work and you don't know what I've just been through. And they're like, oh, so to get around this, I've started to think about the people that I'm reporting to with reporting personas, ladies and gentlemen. You've all watched Dragon's Den? Yeah, Shark Tank, all senior C-suite people. One of them wants to know about the brand and the why and like, you know, moves their fingers. And then there's another one that's all about the numbers. What's your net profit? What's your monthly recurring revenue? So everybody that you're reporting to has a different need. They have different information points that you should be giving them. You don't have to give them the whole report. In fact, we've all been in a meeting, I swear down that this happens. I've presented stuff, and then somebody's gone, what's that chart there? Oh, that's bounce rate, don't worry about that. Oh, let's talk about that for half an hour and derail the entire conversation. So what I do now is I wireframe my reports. So just like you can wireframe a web page or an email campaign, I will sit down and think about my reporting persona. And I'll be thinking, what's the point in this report? It's the CEO and he wants to know what we're doing with our marketing budget. Fantastic. How can I make it really easy, thinking about my user experience hat here, to design this report so that they can look at it and not ask me any questions, that it's really easy for them to digest that information. And then I start to wireframe it, and only then will I go and build it. So I end up doing something that looks a little bit like this. This is really sticky, isn't it? Let me try again. Next slide. Always happens, doesn't it? Do I press that one? Is that one? There we go. So this is a hypothetical SEO review that I could be building in Google Data Studio. Anybody use Data Studio? Yeah, it's a total babe. You should totally use it. It's lovely. So I'll wireframe it, and I think, right, I'm going to give it a title because I don't want my boss or my client to come back and go, what is this? I'm like, this is your SEO report. Fantastic. I'm going to give headers to explain the detail, because do not assume. If you ever write the word assume, it'll make an ass out of you and me. Never assume that they know what you're doing. So I might say, well, here's how many users came from the website in that time, and then I'll put, and here's the difference between the previous periods, just so that you don't nag me. I don't want you to actually talk to me. I want you to get the report and just get on with your day. I might start thinking about looking at the pages and using perhaps a bar chart to make it easier for them to visually see it. I might use a heat map to make it easier to see the data. And then and only then will I go off and build this. And it makes it so much easier. And you don't have to do it any more than a piece of paper. I've taken photographs of my notes and sent it to a client and went, is this what you want? And they'll go, oh no, we didn't want this, and the board don't want that, and we can't have this, and it's easier. But it also means when I'm in Data Studio, for those of you that have tried to use Data Studio, it's not that intuitive, and if you don't know the exact name of the dimension and metric that you're looking for, you'll be there all day. So when you log into Google Data Studio, instead of that literal blank sheet of paper, I've got a wireframe to start with. So I might drag and drop, pie chart, search and replace with the dimension called default channel grouping. It will make you faster at building your reports, and it will save you an awful lot of time. So think about how you can use these particular techniques to focus on being a more user-centric marketeer. And I think out of all the things, for me personally, the biggest skill for me to craft has been empathy. Like, it's really difficult. The amount of times, my first ever big marketing job was for a housing association, and I had to do the annual report, and I put loads of daisies on it because they're my favourite flowers. And you can imagine sending this to people that are in some of the poorest parts of the United Kingdom, and they're like, what the hell? I'm like, yeah, but I like daisies. So yeah, no empathy at all, but I got the job done. So it's thinking about your customers a little bit more. Use those empathy maps. There's loads of resources online for this, so go and get them. Start thinking about how you can structure your website with those different stages of awareness, and there's free tools out there and paid tools as well, but there's lots of information out there for you to actually be better at what you're doing. Think about PASS, problem, agitate, solution. It's the most fun I've had as a copywriter, even though I'm not a copywriter, especially the agitate bit. We all like to poke the bear, don't we? Come on, like, it's the best part of writing. And even if you're in B2B, you're still talking to a human being. They are still going to respond to you in that particular capacity. So that's everything from me. So I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you've had a lovely day. Thank you. Thank you.